And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back. We are in episode 304. We are post the birthday celebration for C Plus Comedy. Happy birthday, C Plus Comedy. We turned 11 years old. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. The website turned 11 years old. I just recorded Late Night Lately where I gave a very, very nice birthday message to the website. So I guess I have to repeat it now. I'm very happy that the website is around. It's given me 11 years of joy, as much as I say I hate doing things. And I still need to find a soundboard app for it. I need to find a soundboard app for the iPad to do the theme song off of which do the theme song. I think we can nix the preposition problem. Excuse me. But that rule where you can't end a sentence with a preposition. But it's been 11 years of talking to some great famous people, of making great shows. I miss News Time. It will be back at some point. I promise you. I just could not do it this week. I had a lot to do. And yeah, here we are. 11 years. What's in this 11 years? I've talked to so many people. And it's not just an interview site, but it's another thing. It does other things, and I'm just enjoyable. 11 years. And then that's going to be the title of this episode. 11 years of C Plus Comedy. All right, let's listen. Let's jump in to this episode. This first story comes from The Verge, written by Sean Hollister. This week we saw the release. It's called Good Luck with the PlayStation VR 2 PC adapter. You'll need it. This week, or I believe last week, we saw the release of the VR adapter, PC VR adapter the PC adapter for the PlayStation 2 VR. PlayStation VR 2. Good Lord. The PlayStation VR 2 headset. So this headset released, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago for PS5, and it was Sony, prior to the release, and I think the day of the release, Sony was backing this device. When the first PlayStation VR came out, they were gung-ho, and then over the next year, they just slowly stopped supporting it. The devs stopped putting games out for it. All the first party stuff was basically, that's what was it. And all the things that launched that day one or in that first couple of months, and you never really saw games come out for it. You saw games support it sometimes, like No Man's Sky supported it day one, but that's it. That's the same thing that happened with PlayStation VR 2. Before it came out, people were all, this is going to be the entry level point for VR, and you're not going to have to need the HTC Vive headsets. You're not going to, if you don't want to be a part of Meta's system, then you have to buy the Meta Quest, which I think the Meta Quest is a better proposition than this. And the same thing happened. PlayStation just stopped supporting it. And I see sales for it every so often, and the VR2 is a good device. It's a good device. It's something that people can still say, hey, I have a PlayStation. I don't have a PC, and I don't want to get the Meta Quest, because that's something you can use without a PC. And I'm already in the Sony PlayStation ecosystem, but what games besides one or two offerings are people going to play? For the Meta Quest, at least that one comes with a 60 or 70 hour RPG that is, by all means, and I hate describing things with numbers, but a 10 out of 10. That everything I've seen has been, people love it. It got perfect scores across the board. It's probably going to be a Game of the Year contender. If that wasn't last year, I think. But this. So now, to open up the functionality of or the versatility of the PS VR system, Sony, we knew this was going to happen, launched an official $60 adapter purchase. Fine. You can take this VR headset and play some of the best VR games, including Half-Life Alyx, on your PC system. But as Hollister points out, he can't currently recommend Sony's PC adapter. It's a shame because let me scroll down. He says it looks good. Everything looks good and everything works. Like the visuals work because it already had, the VR2, PSVR2. I'm just gonna say VR2. The VR2 already had just a really good way of projecting its color and screen and colors and on that the tiny little OLED screens that are in front of your eyes, and it looks better than the Meta Quest 3. But there's glitches abound. There's troubleshooting that needs to happen. There's things that just don't work right. They took out a lot of functionality, like using your eyes to control some points of the PSVR. I don't really have one, so I don't know or care. They use a single USB-C port. The PSVR2 PC adapter appears to be the same thing as the original VR adapter, using a port called like a single USB-C port called the Virtual Link. The 3x3-inch square puck takes USB-A and DisplayPort from your gaming PC and power from the DC barrel jack, combining them into a single USB-C port for your headset on the other end. Find a DisplayPort cable if it doesn't come with one and doesn't support HDMI to DisplayPort. Fire up the free PSVR 2 app on Steam, and suddenly you have a Steam VR headset capable of displaying any Steam game. But the headset is the only thing the PSVR 2 adapter adapts. Sony provides no way to connect the PSVR 2's all important controllers. They need to connect to your PC via Bluetooth, but Sony does not provide any form of Bluetooth radio for that, and figuring out controller connectivity on my own has been an utter mess. It's what seems to be an issue is that it's like when Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, the controllers connected to the Joy-Cons connected to the Nintendo Switch via Bluetooth, but they did not allow for any other Bluetooth functionality besides the controllers. Eventually, like 2 or 3 years later, they sent out an update that allowed for Bluetooth connectivity, such as Bluetooth headsets or whatever other Bluetooth things you want to use on the Nintendo Switch. It seems to me that Sony kind of sent out this broken, I don't want to say device, because I don't know if it's the device itself, and not the VR headset, but I'm saying like the display thing, the cable box. They sent out this cable box without any knowing way that these controllers, they just assumed it was going to be plug and play, and they made us assume it was going to be plug and play, and this is not exactly the case. I don't know if this is ever going to be something that can be fixed. Controller tracking also has its woes as well. Video pass-through is nice, but the automated, like things like the automated room scan don't work. You have to unpair and repair things. I'm wondering if, because Sony obviously built the PSVR 2 with the PlayStation in mind, but they didn't think that in the same vein that I can take a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, both utilized on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X respectively, I can take this controller and pair it to my Mac, and pair it to my iPad, and pair it to my Samsung phone, and pair it to my Steam Deck, and then also pair it to the Xbox. But they didn't take into consideration that has to happen with everything. And if they sent out this cable, this box, and I assume they knew this was going to happen because there wasn't official support for the first VR system, PSVR system on the PC. People just kind of went around it. But I'm wondering if this was an afterthought and they said, okay, well, they can just use Bluetooth and then they just send out the box, or because this was a long time coming, or was this something that they wanted after the fact, or prior they planned for prior to the fact and said, what? Hold on, I know what I'm talking about. Did they plan for it or did not plan for it? Is what I really want to know. And Sony does not seem to be doing anything about this issue right now. But also, I've seen people talk about how good it is, but I don't think I think the more people talk about how bad it is, that's what I tend to go to. And then there's like the people who were like, I spent $550 plus another $60 on this adapter. This is the best thing that's happening right now. All right, let's move on to the next story. This comes from Engadget, written by Sarah Fielding. Patreon will have to use Apple's in-app purchase system or be removed from the App Store. Apple is, for some reason, doubling down on this in-app purchase thing. Patreon is a subscription platform where people who make podcasts, do art, sell porn, whatever. You sell a subscription and people subscribe to it, and that's as simple as that. Apple wants Patreon to start using their iOS in-app purchasing system, or risk expulsion, as Ms. Fielding writes. Patreon's entire purpose is to allow creators to offer patrons memberships in exchange for content. While some tiers are unpaid, creators often offer paid options to make money, something that this shift could impact. Patreon users need to know about two main things. By this November, all creators can only offer a subscription-based plan on iOS at the App Store. Doesn't support other formats. As the App Store doesn't support other formats, such as the first of the month or per creation plans. So that means if somebody is charging $10 per video they put out, and that happens every 3 months, they can't do that on the Apple App Store. And then first of the month plan ones are they always put out something on the first of the month. Then they can't do that. As a result, so they basically have to, essentially, if you're putting out a podcast like Doughboys or something, and that happens every single week. As a result, Patreon is rolling out a 16-month-long migration process that will shift all memberships to subscriptions by November 2025. At that point, subscription-based plans will be the only option available, unfortunately proving Apple's far-reaching power. My God. And then Apple has to take that they will take that 30% cut. Oh man. This is the reason why Epic sued Apple, and they won in some respects and didn't in others. That's why in the EU the App Store had to be opened up. This is, people often think Disney and Apple are such good companies, compared to the others, and no, they're just as bad. They just, like that woman who died from, they do more illicit things in the dark. Like that woman who died from eating food that she was allergic to at a Disney park, when they kept asking over and over and over. This is a recent story. Her and her family kept asking over and over and over again, hey, does this have this in this? Because I'm allergic to it. I could die. And then she dies. And then the family is suing Disney. And then Disney's like, you had a Disney Plus trial. You're in the middle of a trial. And also you bought tickets to our park. So no, you can't sue us. You knew this was going to happen. Apple is greedy. And this is taking away from people who, in a lot of cases, this is their only means of making money. And yes, they can sell merch. And yes, they could have, tips on Twitch. And yes, they could have ad revenue on YouTube. But in a lot of cases, this is the way people are making money, and you are taking from them and saying this is a privilege. So what could happen? This is a privilege to be on an App Store. What could happen is Patreon. If I were Patreon, I would just remove the App Store, remove the app from the App Store entirely, and just rely on the web store, the web front end, and the Android app version. They'd be dumb to take their app off of the App Store, the Apple App Store. However, by forcing people who don't necessarily charge for a free tier of their subscriptions to start charging, is going to be, bad for everybody around, because then some people will lose subscribers. And yeah, sure, you're not really a fan if you don't subscribe, but some people just don't want to pay or can't pay. I only pay for 2 subscriptions. Believe it or not, I have just a jack ton of subscriptions, just so many subscriptions, not on Patreon, but to music, to video. I have all the streaming services. But for Patreon, I pay for one Patreon, which is Dope Boys. And then there's another podcast I pay for their subscription to, which is Never Not Funny. And that's it. And I don't want to pay anymore. And it would be, if I was paying through, the Apple App Store or whatever, that would be, and that was my only means of getting that show. And I just go, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Then I could just stop it, and then they lose that revenue. Yes, they can get more revenue, but still. All right, let's move on. Let's briefly talk about the Paris Olympics and Peacock. Peacock had a stellar year when it came to the Olympics. This comes from the Rap Pro, and I can't read it because it's behind a paywall, but it's written by Kayla Cobb. The Paris Olympics streaming hits 17 billion minutes, tops viewing for all prior games combined. I do want to preface that story with this, and this is not to take away from Peacock, but I was just listening to an episode of Pivot with Kara Swisher and guest host. Oh, this is embarrassing. This is so embarrassing because I don't know who the guy is. The guest host is, Mehdi Hassan. Okay, anyway, this is so bad because I'm trying to get ready for the show and I was doing this. Anyway, but they were talking about how the Olympics was just amazing for Peacock, and it was. The Paris Olympics, the 2024 Paris Olympics, in case this is the future and somebody is listening to this, some poor guy is about to go kill a bunch of people. Like, I want to put on my favorite podcast, The Constitutionals. Oh my God. But by all means, Peacock just excelled at the Olympics, and that's great. That is truly, I did not believe that Peacock was going to be stable enough for the Olympics to handle, to be handled. But people were able to watch, every basketball game or every wall climbing event or what have you on Peacock, as opposed to the way, did I say Peacock? As opposed to the way I was watching it, which was the multi-view on YouTube TV and complete with commercials most of the time. Complete. Oh my God, I'd be watching golf and like swimming and, the soccer and wall climbing. I can't think of anything else. And then like 3 of them would go on commercial, and then golf would be the only thing that's on. And then the next day, golf would be the one that goes commercial, and then swimming is the only thing that's on. Anyway, but they 17 billion minutes, which was amazing. But they have to keep this in mind. There's 2 things I want them to keep in mind. The Tokyo Olympics did not stream. Peacock, this is the first time. So this is amazing, but it's also the first time. And we're in a world of there's a confluence of events. There's TikTok. There's a bunch of wars going on that people do not want to pay attention to. There's politics in the U.S. that people do not want to pay attention to. There truly, during those 3 weeks, nothing was on. Nothing was on. If all the late night hosts were off for 3 weeks and the only movie to come out was Deadpool and Wolverine, the only big movie to come out was Deadpool and Wolverine. That's how you manage to get good focus. I'm not taking that away from them, though. I don't want to take away the fact that there was 17 billion minutes streamed. The second thing is, Kara Swisher and Mehdi Hassan were like, this really showed Peacock's strength. The thing is, they have 3.5 more years until the next Summer Olympics. There's also the Winter Olympics, but in the same case, they could do the same exact thing for the Winter Olympics, but they have, in 2028 is when the Summer Olympics are. So what are they going to do until then? I don't think, and I would love to be proven wrong because there should be competition, especially when it comes to streaming. But I don't think Peacock is going to be around in this form. I think it'll be merged with Paramount Plus. I think it'll open up some type of additional streaming, revenue by launching like a channel on being able to be people can subscribe to it on Hulu or on Amazon Prime, or on Prime Video rather. That's what they want you to call it. I got an email about that. It's very true. I got a. They weren't like emailing me directly, but it was just like a general press thing. They're like, call it Prime Video. We hate it when you call it. What's up? But I don't think Peacock in its current iteration is going to be around. Prove me wrong. Stop canceling shows. Put out good movies, and in general, just be good. But this is a great start, and they need to keep this momentum going by just putting shows and movies out and just being consistent and having a streamer that is a great alternative to Netflix and Disney Plus, because your competition is not Netflix and Disney Plus. Your competition is Paramount Plus and Max. No offense to Max. All right, this next one comes from Variety, written by Brian Steinberg. Speaking of streamers, Judge bars Disney, Warner, Fox from launching sports streamer Venu. This just happened, truly as I was setting this episode up. A U.S. District Marshal Judge Margaret Garnett in federal court in Manhattan barred the three companies on Friday, which is today, from launching Venu, deciding that the Fubo TV sports streaming service would likely prevail on claims that the new broadband entity would, quote, substantially lessen competition and restrain trade. Fubo launched in 2015 as a startup focused on sports streaming programming. Let's talk about what Fubo is. Fubo is essentially live TV, but that focuses on sports. So you can get Comedy Central, ABC, your local ABC channel, Disney, and things like that. But also you can get Fox Sports 1, all of the Bally Sports platforms, channels, stuff that you can't get anywhere else. MLB Network, tennis, all that stuff, because it mostly focuses on sports streaming. Then you have Venu, which was talked about last year, and it's set to launch this fall. It was set to launch this fall, where Disney, Fox, and Warner Brothers were all going to come together and put out a streaming service that was all sports focused. So you would get all the ESPN family, you would get all the TNT, USA, you would get Fox Sports 1, you would get all that stuff. And it was just, I think it's supposed to be I think it was just supposed to be sports. But Fubo obviously came out and said, hey, this would make us seem obsolete and people would leave us, and then that would be a monopoly. Because they offer the same thing plus all of the Max stuff and all the Disney Plus stuff and all the ESPN Plus stuff. Venu was supposed to launch for $43 per month at the start of it's supposed to launch in late August. I thought it was going to be in September. That's crazy. The three parent companies are targeting a new generation of consumers who disdain the high cost of traditional cable packages, are more at home with signing up for stream. This is a bad sentence. For streaming, this is a long sentence too. Streaming venues that are relatively easy to get in and out of, based on the availability of favorite entertainment programs or sporting events. Judge Garnett found that once Venu launches, Fubo TV would face a swift exodus of large numbers of subscribers, and indicated she felt, quote, that Fubo's bankruptcy and delisting of the company's stock will likely soon follow. These are quintessential harms that money cannot adequately repair. I don't think that's necessarily true. If we look at the launch of, I don't know how Fox Nation is as a streamer, but if we look at the launch of Max, it's still buggy to this day. Disney Plus is probably the best out of, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, Max, and Fox Nation. Those are all the streamers that those companies that are teaming up for Venu own. Fubo is alleging that Venu's launch, quote, will cause it to lose approximately 300 to 400,000 or nearly 30% of its subscribers. Suffer a significant decline in its ability to attract new customers, lose between $75 and $95 million in revenue, and be transformed into a penny stock awaiting delisting. That is the worst case scenario. I think right now at this point in time, Fubo TV's biggest Venu's not even out, but biggest competition would be Hulu with live TV and YouTube TV. And YouTube TV is outpacing Hulu with live TV. So I see where they're getting at. I don't think that people who are already established with Fubo TV, who are already watching TLC and Comedy Central and, Cartoon Network over on Fubo, they're not going to go, why don't I pay more for I'm sorry, I have to turn this down. Why don't I pay more for YouTube TV or Hulu of Live TV and then also get Venu? I think those people are few compared to the however many million subscribers that Fubo TV has. I don't think anyone is necessarily, I think I have to turn it back up because now I can barely hear myself. I don't think Fubo is necessary. Oh, God. I don't think Fubo, bless me. Thank you. Fubo, that's a dire situation. And Fubo offers a lot more than Venu can. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. This is a Friday injunction, and at some point next week, I assume things are going to happen because they were looking to launch in late August, which I think is now going to be moved to September. Speaking of cable TV, this comes from Alex Weprin over at The Hollywood Reporter. Once a cash cow, cable TV is now roadkill as a fire sale next. As Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery take massive hits to their businesses, executives will need to make difficult choices on managing the decline. The thing about both Warner Brothers and Paramount is Warner Brothers is run by a man who does not know. Nova, stop. A man who does not know what he is doing with an entertainment platform. Discovery is a different beast than what Warner Brothers is. And the fact that they have a person who was in charge of Discovery Networks, including TLC and Discovery Channel, who did not make written television, and is selling, has gotten rid of the Cartoon Network website, which is the most recent thing, and changed the name from HBO Max to Max because people don't recognize it, they don't want their HBO brand on there or whatever. Who has just tanked Warner Brothers games, and I'm not saying that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is his fault, but I'm playing that game on my Steam Deck right now, and if it was not part of the Arkham universe, I would not be playing it right now, period. And it just doesn't make sense. He just doesn't know what to do. And I think I could do things better in one day. And then we'll look at Paramount. Sherry Redstone has been wanting to sell that company for the past year or for the past few months, and the money wasn't good enough from the first initial acquisition with Skydance, and then that sent everything into uproar, and then Bob Bakish was fired, and then they went to and then Sony and Blackstone wasn't good enough, and then obviously that wouldn't have been a good acquisition, but we're getting rid of networks, we're getting rid of the streaming platforms are suffering, people are losing their jobs, which is the most important thing. Yes. Linear TV is in dire straits right now. Linear TV is suffering, and it is like there's no way to combat what streaming can offer. There is, however, a way to slow it down, to stop the hemorrhaging. First of all, the Warner Brothers losing the rights to the NBA is, I mean, that's on you, Zaslav. That's your fault. You should have made a move before that. You don't have to make $500 million. You fired people to try to catch up to even what Amazon was offering for NBA rights, and you still couldn't do it. You didn't do it fast enough. The NBA has a right to say no. The decline has been driven by cord cutting, of course, but in recent quarters, the cable business has faced a double whammy. Not only are subscribers declining faster than carriage fees are rising, but advertising dollars are fleeing as the proliferation of ad-supported streaming options provide new places for marketers to spend their budgets. For the last 30 years, the entertainment business has thrived on the economics of pay TV as ever-rising carriage fees and valuable ad inventory combine to create a business model virtually unmatched outside of the tech sector. But while some of those traditional entertainment companies are diversified, think Disney and NBC Universal's lucrative theme parks or Comcast's internet business, and others are more targeted, Fox Corp, with almost all revenue connected to sports and news, WBD, Paramount, and AMC Networks, and others find themselves in particularly precarious situations. So, what happens next? According to analysts, the chaos is only just beginning. Cable channels could become new newspapers, targets for investment funds looking to milk cash out of them for as long as possible. So, what that would mean is you would see on TNT a rerun of Lord of the Rings. And that could run for 5 hours long, and it could also be just filled with third-party ads, in-show ads, in-movie ads, things that just don't make sense. Cable channels could pursue a roll-up either through existing company or through a third party. We've seen the CW be sold off to Nexstar. Nexstar is going to be doing sports. They canceled 90% of the shows on the CW. They're going to do more reality shows, things of that nature. Paramount, despite the Skydance deal, is moving forward to try and cut deals. They're probably going to have to sell off some networks. BET is probably going to be sold off to Weather Channel guy. What's his name? Byron Allen. I can see Bravo and VH1 and things like that being... Well, I could see VH1 and MTV2 onwards being killed off. MTV News is gone. It's... I think there is a way for cable to survive. I do think that Paramount Plus, when it was CBS All Access, was ahead of the curve, including, CBS as part of its live TV package. And now I think Paramount is going to have to be added onto Paramount Plus at some point. Okay, bud, you're on the cable, so you're going to have to move. Come on. Get from behind the chair. Come on. That's what happens when you have two animals and you're recording 10 minutes or 20 minutes until they need to eat. Bud, jeez. And then along the same lines of that, Peacock is offering, if you pay the higher tier, the un-ad supported tier, you get live NBC and reruns of the Today Show and things like that. And then on Max, you get CNN live. I think like a large swath of its programming, and some sporting from which they put under the Bleacher Report banner. But it's a little too late at this point. If that's the case, I would, again, they have to stop the hemorrhaging, and the only options that from a business sense that a person would see is you acquire a lot of shows. Like Comedy Central just acquired Family Guy to run on its network, and Family Guy so now will be there, as well as FXX or FX rather. I don't know which one it is, and then as well as Adult Swim. Is it on Adult Swim? I don't think it is. But that's where you're going to see a lot of second run, third run shows and movies on there, and you're gonna see. I don't know. We're gonna see a lot of networks just go. G4 TV is gone, and then when that was Tech TV, that was around for about 20 some odd years. We're gonna see brands just die off. MTV News is gone. I think there's still room for Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. There's still room for, I don't know what Comedy Central's. I don't know what's gonna. I don't know. That one's tough. That one's tough for me. But Paramount is a Viacom. That just popped in my head. Paramount is a tough horse for me to get a hold of. It's just, I think there is room for cable, but they just have to have a different avenue. They have to have these skinny bundles that people don't want to pay, Spectrum $200 just so they can watch one or two channels. Like it took me so long to convince my mom and stepdad to just, because they live in the country, but they do live and not a city. They live in even not the suburbs, but country-esque. They live in a place that's country-esque. With a lot of Trump voters up there, and just two black people living in the Trump country. But their only option for internet is, I'm gonna make up a name like Windstream or something like that. And guess who had to set that up? So when your only option is that, and then they force you to get this Comcast package, and then your son is like, don't do that. Don't let me talk to, or like just when that package ends, don't re-up. And just get an internet-only package and get YouTube TV. It'll save you. You'll be paying a fourth, and they're literally paying like a fourth of what they're paying. All they have to do is pay for the internet and YouTube TV, and even still, Windstream or Comcast or whoever. It's not, the internet's not Comcast, but they have to get Comcast. But like Windstream is like, you have to have a TV package with this internet, and we'll give you like 13 channels, and they still have like cable boxes and stuff. It's insane. And I'm a guy who pays for Sirius XM and loves paying for YouTube TV, and it has it on right now. And I'm thinking that's too old school. But there is a way for these things to exist. Dish is going to have to do, if Dish is still around, they're going to have to do skinny bundles. I think a skinny bundle would work. Team up with Verizon. Verizon still has its TV platform as well. Team up with Verizon and say, hey, now Verizon has the Dish name, and you can get TV with them and then also including your Verizon internet and your Verizon phone, and also get Netflix and Disney Plus and Apple Music all in this one bill, because people like paying for one thing at once, seeing the money come out. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people. I have 11 years of that, so do it. You can watch a video version of this show on youtube.com/cpluscomedy, as well as video versions of the shows LinkedIn Logs, which is the Jobs podcast, and Late Night Lately, which is the late night show. Subscribe to those wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for 11 years of C Plus Comedy. I hope to have at least 11 more, and I hope to make at least $11. So, all right. I'm done. Bye.